is supplying the handicraft goods. So therefore, we should keep in mind there is no threshold limit except for the handicraft goods. Casual taxable person have to take the GST registration. Person who are required to pay tax under reverse charge. As I discussed earlier also, that there may be a situation you are availing input tax, you are availing services of GTA, you are availing services of law firm advocates, wherein you are required to pay tax as an in RCM. In that case, there is no threshold limit. You have to take the GST registration. Another situation is online portals, e-commerce operators who are required to collect the tax as TCS have to take the registration. There is no threshold limit. After deciding that the who are mandatorily required to take the registration, let's move on. Person not liable to take the registration. Here, the 2-3 categories are there who are not required to take the GST registration. Person exclusively engaged in the business of exempt services or the supplying the exempt goods are exempt from taking the GST registration. Agriculturist who is engaged into the cultivation of the land is also not required to take the registration. There may be specified categories as notified by the government. So, if you are exclusively into the exempt supply, then you are not required to take the GST registration. Voluntary registration. A person who is not liable to be registered under the GST Act may get himself registered voluntarily to take the benefits of GST registrations. What is this? Voluntary registration, as the name word suggests, means even if your threshold limit is not crossed and you want to take the benefit of GST registration, therefore you are allowed to take the GST registration. The benefits of taking the voluntary registrations are you are allowed to issue the tax invoice, you can collect the tax, you can pay to the government, you are allowed to take the input tax credit also. You are legally recognized. So voluntary registration is allowed even if your threshold turnover is less than 20 lakh or 40 lakh or 10 lakh as the case may be. However, once you take the GST registration, you cannot claim any exemption that your threshold is less than the limit. So once you are registered, you have to charge the tax and you have to pay to the government account. Next is there are certain special provisions for casual and non-resident taxable persons. So we would like to discuss that there is a time limit for which casual registration is provided, that is 90 days. However, this 90-day time limit can further be extended for another 90 days if request is made to the commissioner. The above person can make the taxable supply only after the registration certificate is received. This taxable person at the time of the casual taxpayer or non-resident taxpayer need to deposit tax in advance, and then the advance paid tax will be credited to their electronic cash ledger, which can be adjusted at the time of paying the liability. To sum up, we need to understand this casual taxpayer. Casual taxpayers registration is granted for maximum 90 days. It can be further extended on to the request to the commissioner for another 90 days. At the time of registration, the tax is paid in advance. It is calculated on estimated basis. The payment made in advance is credited to the cash ledger. Once you make the payment at the time of filing the returns, the cash already paid is adjusted. The casual registration gets automatically cancelled once the 90 days time period is over. So we understand now that the whoever is selling goods on casual basis, temporary basis in the trade fairs, exhibition and events, they need to take the casual registration, and there is no threshold limit except for the handicraft goods. We now move on to document requirement for GST registration. There are certain document requirement for GST registration. Once you proceed for GST registration, you have decided you need to take the registration. Now your job is to collect the document. What are the requirements for the document? It will depend upon your legal status. You may be proprietor individual, or you may be a company. If Let's discuss the documents. If you are a company, you need an additional document like certificate of incorporation, board resolution, authorization, and in general document requirement is photograph of the proprietor director, PAN card of the proprietor director, mobile number and email ID. Here it is very important that mobile number and email ID is a most important part of this registration document, because all the communication with the department and over the GST portal will be done through mobile number and email. All the verifications will be done through OTPs. So mobile number and email ID is important. That should be given very cautiously. Identity proof of directors and proprietor. Aadhaar card Aadhaar card, election ID, driving license as passport are allowed as an identity proof. Bank account proof is also needed. However, it can be submitted after taking the registration. Now, the most important part where the registration is generally rejected is business address proof. What is business address proof? Wherein the registration need to be taken. There may be a situation where you are the owner of the property. In that case, ownership proof, if is required, that may be registration document, property registration document. And if the property is rented property, in that case you need rent agreement. Valid rent agreement should be there. It can be registered or it can be non-registered. However, in few states it is mandatory to take the registered rent agreement. So therefore, it should be checked whether the unregistered agreement will work or not. Electricity in the name of the owner of the property also needed. NOC in case of the property wherein you are taking the GST registration is of a relative or the known person who is not charging any rent. In that case, you need to take the NOC from the owner of the property along with the ownership proof like electricity bill, property tax receipts, etc. So business address proof is the most important, because most of the notices of rejections are received only in case of property document. Therefore, it should be kept in mind that the property document should be very clear, readable, and it should be valid document. Now, after the collecting all these documents, we will start the process of GST registration. GST registration process is online process wherein you need to log into the GST portal. GST portal is gst.gov.in. On the portal homepage, there is a menu services. Under the services, the registration tab is there. You will go to new registration. After clicking the new registration, you will receive a window like this. Fill registration form. You will fill the basic details that I am the taxpayer, I am taking the voluntary registration, or I am the specified taxable person, state, district, legal name. In case of proprietorship or the company, you will mention the as per the PAN card, PAN account, PAN number, email ID and phone number. That is very important, because that the email ID and phone number will be used for the purpose of OTP. After entering the CAPTCHA, you will proceed, and then a TRN is generated. The TRN will be emailed to you. That on the basis of that TRN, you again log in using the OTP. So after entering the TRN and OTP, the form filling will start. You will enter all the credentials, personal details, address proof, requirements, services and the goods wherein you are required to take the GST registration. All the documents will be uploaded on the portal. There is a space limit, that therefore they provided that all the documents should be 100 KB size or maximum 1 MB size as per the requirement. Photo of the directors on the share will be uploaded. So after uploading all the documents, filling the form, you will move on to verification page. Verification page, at the time of a verification page, you will receive see the name of the proprietor or the director or the authorized person, where whoever you have selected. And on the verification page, there are options to submit through EVC. The forms will be submitted through EVC. After submitting the form through EVC, you will be asked to do the Aadhaar authentication. There will be an email sent to you that you need to complete the authentication. Aadhaar authentication is basically Aadhaar, since GST registration is PAN based, Aadhaar based. So after completing the Aadhaar authentication as per the email, you will be directed to receive and to go to the portal, and you will see that your application is finally submitted. Once the application is finally submitted, the range officer, ward officer have 7 working day time to complete the verify the application. He has to do 7-day verification, otherwise the application is got automatically accepted. He can send you the notice asking for you more documents or reject the application. In that case, a notice will be issued. After receiving the notice, you will submit the reply clarification and also upload the document required. Like he is asking some documents related to address proof, related to directorship, and anything. You need to upload the document and submit the clarification. After submitting the clarification, he has another 7-day time, and then he will approve or reject the application. Once the application is accepted, approved, then you will receive an email, welcome to GST family. That on the email there is a credentials to log in the GST portal. After login to GST portal, you can download the GST certificate. GST certificate will look like this. Slide number 17. You will see the certificate. GST registration certificate will be issued under REG 0506. It will have registration number, legal name, trade name, constitution of the business, address, and the officer who has authorized you, the date of validity. The GST number contains 15 digits basically. First 2 digits of the GST number denotes the state code, and next 10 digits are the PAN number, check number, and your entity code. So therefore, now after getting this registration, there may be a situation you need to do the amendments, like you have changed your address, that there is change in directorship, there is change in goods or services you are providing. So you need to file the amendment application. The amendment application can be filed online. You can upload the document. The amendment application approval and rejection process is same as in the case of registration. Now there is another category, deemed registration. So deemed registration is provided to embassies, consulates, wherein they are allowed to take the credit and take the refund, because internationally they are allowed to they are allowed to take the refund because they are exempt from the taxes. Penalty for non-registration, it is important. Once you are required to take the registration and you have not taken, there is a penalty of rupees 10,000, minimum penalty. It may be exceeded. You can also be levied penalty for giving false information. So here friends, I have completed the registration process, penalty provisions, amendments. I hope the investors who are going to invest in the businesses and going to start the business will be benefited by this information. And GST is a very important provision, important law in our cases. So we have to follow all the provisions. Otherwise, there is penal provisions. So to avoid any penalty, the GST laws, penal provisions should also be kept in mind.